I want to talk about Elizabeth Warren from a more personal place. First time I met her, Pelosi does this thing where she brings people who've just been elected to Congress to the JFK school, just to get the basics down. I mean, it turns out that when you get in Congress, there's all these rules and regulations and all kind of stuff, and how do you do this, how do you do that? Well, rather than just throwing people in on the deep end, she brings them all to the JFK school, and they spend several days getting briefed and getting updated, and she has speakers there. And I was invited to speak, and I, you know, I thought I was doing a good job. I mean, I was talking about green jobs and environmental policy, you know, but honestly, you got a bunch of brand new Congress people, brand new staff, or some of them are still hiring their chiefs of staff, so the room's pretty busy, there's a lot of stuff going on. But, you know, I got my smattering of applause, and I felt like I had done enough to call my mom and tell her, you know, I'm teaching the next Congress people, you know, how to do their jobs here, Ma, you know, because that's how I do. Now, sitting next to me is Pelosi, and sitting next to Pelosi is this woman who I didn't know, and then she starts to talk. And the room slowly just falls silent. The waiters and the waitresses stopped, put their trays down, turned around, and just froze as this woman, who I couldn't see, starts to lay out the case for credit cards not ripping people off, for the banks being regulated, et cetera. And by the time she finished, literally every single person in that room was awestruck. We all somehow gained about 17 IQ points. But also the world that we have been living in and struggling in and suffering in made clear sense. And we realized that it wasn't only our faults that we had had such a difficult time the past 5 years, 10, there's some bigger system, and that there was something we could do about it. When she got finished talking, I asked Speaker Pelosi, I said, who was that? Who is that? She says, oh, her name is Elizabeth Warren. She's a professor here. I said, not for long. Not for long. Now, I say that because there comes a moment in the history of a country where you have to have world-class leadership that can understand the most complex stuff, but break it down to the most simple level so that ordinary people can take the action that's needed. And ever since Elizabeth Warren left Harvard's lush campus and took the national stage, she has made America better every single step of the way. Now, she has not declared that she's going to run. In fact, she's declared she's not going to run. And I'm not even endorsing her as a candidate. I work for a media organization. We can't endorse people. But I am saying that she needs to get in the race, because look at what she's already done for the country. She's not in the race. Not in the race. Income inequality is now discussed in both political parties as if it was normal. No, I'm sorry. Before Occupy Wall Street and before Elizabeth Warren and before some of the people in this room, the only economic conversation was about debt and deficits. That conversation, remember that stupid conversation? Right. Because, you know, America's not broke. America's been robbed. That's different. Now, but that whole stupid conversation about debt and deficit has been wiped completely out to sea without her being in the race. Stuff that we don't even think about it anymore. That whole, remember the TPP fast track, now in the slow lane? Remember Weiss was going to be a walkover? He's out of the picture. Rahm Emanuel, God bless him. Had to buy Depends right there at the end. Because Elizabeth Warren's style, arguments, and concerns have turned him into the pre-Elizabeth Warren Democrat. De Blasio, right here, has taken up the mantle and is now insisting before he endorses anyone that they sign on to Elizabeth Warren-style economic policies. These ideas were not in the public discourse 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They are now, not only are they mainstream in the Democratic Party, Jeb Bush is talking about income inequality. Mitt Romney, Rand Paul. I mean, when you're making the Republican Party better, and you haven't even announced, think about what would happen if she were. Think about what would happen, what will happen when she does. You say, well, she's already said 1,000,000 times, Van, she's not going to run. Do you know how long 9 months is in politics? I mean, people said, someone just announced for president. They called me, get on CNN, we got to talk about it. I'm like, why? A year from now, this person is still going to be running for president. Do you know how long we have to go? We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone in the weeks and months to come. But because of the promise of what Elizabeth Warren could do just for the debates, can you imagine Elizabeth Warren in the debates? How she would improve the discussion, how she would force everyone to study harder, to get smarter, right? I mean, you're not going to show up to debate Elizabeth Warren, without having eaten your Wheaties. I mean, can you imagine just the debates, how much better and smarter and sharper every single person in that race would have to be? So she would improve the country just by being in the debates. Can you imagine what it means right now, as was mentioned already, in Iowa? The biggest network of organized volunteers, the biggest network of organized precinct captains is not for any of the declared candidates. It is for Elizabeth Warren, and she hasn't even declared. What would it do for our movement? What would it do for our movement across the country to have her in the race? So I just want to thank MoveOn.org. I want to thank the Working Families Party. I want to thank Democracy for America and my good friend, Brother Dean here. I want to thank Ready for Warren for jumping out ahead of everybody and getting this whole ball rolling. You just never know. This far out, Barack Obama was an asterisk. You just never know what's possible when people reach for their highest dreams, their highest hopes, and appeal to the better angels, our highest angels. And one person on the national scene besides Elizabeth Warren, who's been doing that for a very, very long time, is my hero, my inspiration, somebody who I consider to be a mentor from afar, somebody who has been willing to not only write about stuff. There's a lot of good people in the Ivy League environment, and they write about stuff, and that's very important. I'm not anti-intellectual. But man, they write a lot of stuff. It's very, very difficult to translate those ideas into action. And it's very difficult to turn action into effective action. We have somebody who's going to come to the stage right now who has done that better, I think, than any public intellectual that we have in the United States of America right now. He will explain to you his passion and his commitment to get the corruption out of our government. And I hope that Elizabeth Warren is patched in or is watching, because when you hear his argument, I've never seen Larry Lessig lose an argument. Wait till you hear his argument for Elizabeth Warren. Bring him to the stage.